Welcome to episode 1 of the Tri-State Hockey Podcast presented by Novig. I'm your host, Jonny Lazarus, joined by my good friends and my co-hosts, longtime NHL reporter Arthur Staple and Stanley Cup champion Mike Rupp. Fellas, it's so great to finally be here. We've been talking about this project for a few months now, and it's about time that there is a New York Rangers, New York Islanders, and New Jersey Devils show where we get in depth about all three teams. We got voicemails from listeners already, and this is just episode 1. And I do got to say, we apologize for the delay in the release. We did have some trouble today. Rupper, I don't know if you want to address this, but not off to the hottest start.
No, I was so cocky with the Devils start that I didn't do my due diligence and find my proper connection at the NHL Network. So we had a bunch of technical issues. I am -1 on my first shift of the season with you guys. But I will make it up to you. I told you already. We got dinner on me. Shout out Vic. It's your birthday. Happy birthday. I've apologized for ruining your birthday. I feel like this big right now, but I'm excited to do this. If there's anything in that for you guys.
Yeah, and just a little background. I want to address our listeners and talk about how this show came to be, how the three of us know each other. Obviously, you two guys go way further back, so I'll actually kick it over to Arthur so you can tell how you two first originally met, because it is a pretty cool story.
Yeah, I think our friendship's more been formed in the last few years since Rupper came over to the dark side to be a media guy like the rest of us, and running into him in press boxes, talking on the phone for stories. He's been a great resource. But the first time I met Mike was on the ice after Game 7 of the 2003 Stanley Cup Final, when Rupper scored a goal in that Game 7 win to give the Devils the Stanley Cup. He was skating around with the cup. I got to interview him on the ice. I was covering the Rangers at the time, so it was a pretty special moment for me. Maybe not one that he remembers, but obviously a much more special moment for him. But I think ever since then, I've always looked at him as a guy who's great to talk to. And now just to have him here as a co-host, the three of us, it's pretty awesome, and I can't wait to get started.
What can you say about that?
Yeah, it only feels natural too. I mean, just like Arthur mentioned, man, we've been chatting it up quite a bit, and especially in recent years, and we've run into each other numerous times at MSG. We're on the phone talking shop, and I think that's kind of with all three of us. What makes this make so much sense is that we're passionate about it. We're passionate about this region. And we could talk this stuff all day long. We do. And it's not always on camera. So let's throw it on cam for some of the fans here.
And I do believe there is a saying, if you sit at a table and you can't figure out who the sucker is, chances are you're the sucker. And I think that's me on the show. So I just got to put that out there. I'm the only one who hasn't touched all three organizations. But obviously everyone knows I cover the Rangers. I'm a Ranger fan. And when I first stepped foot in the press box at MSG, Arthur kind of took me under his wing, and that's how I got to know him very well. I also previously hosted my own show with my friends talking about the Rangers, and I begged for you two to come on as guests. So to be doing this now with you guys is full circle for me. And I do just want to share a quick story with my background with you, Rupper. People have asked me before, like, what's the moment in your career where you feel like you've made it? And I don't know if I've made it, but I do remember covering the 2023 Cup Final, and I was wearing this like neon jacket so I could stand out on TV because my parents were watching. And you actually walked over to me and introduced yourself, and I was like, holy shit, that was so cool. And to now be friends with the two of you guys is awesome. And I'm really excited for this show and to see where this thing takes us. So three teams that are very exciting right now, all in different ways, whether that's exciting in a positive way or a negative way. We'll unpack that. And I do want to start just by asking you, Arthur, we'll start with you. If you could pinpoint one thing right now about the New York Islanders that excites you most, what would be that one thing?
Well, if I could add to the wall behind me, I would definitely put a number 48 jersey up there because it's Matthew Schaefer. I think this is a guy that the Islanders aren't always a team that's talked about, particularly in a positive light when it comes to social media. People who watch the NHL for a living, who, whether it's pundits, data people, they tend to kind of leave the Islanders out of a lot of these conversations. Even you, Jonny, a native Long Islander, tends to do that sometimes. No offense to you. But Matthew Schaefer has got everybody talking. And that's an awesome thing to see, not just because he's the first overall pick, not just because of the anticipation of a first overall pick. It's what he's put out on the ice in these first 16, 17 games. He is not just the real deal, but we haven't seen anything like this in a long time. Rupper and I were talking You think of Miro Heiskanen when he first came in. You think of your old buddy Johnny Cale Makar. I think he might be somewhere in between those two if we're projecting out. But the way that he started, it's completely unique. The kid's a unicorn. He's got a great personality, great character. He's very enthusiastic to be on Long Island, which is a big plus for a lot of Islander fans. And I think he's drawing the right kind of attention to this team for the first time in a long time.
It's funny you mentioned that, his personality, the way he carries himself. I got to meet him in the Stanley Cup Finals. They're kind of taking the top prospects, running them through the media gauntlet. We had him on the network, and this was kind of one of those moments. Who's another one? There's a couple that jump out to me. Honestly, like in my career of doing it even on this side, Gabe Landeskog, the first time I heard him talk about just speak to the media, I was like, oh, this guy's a captain. This guy's a future captain. He's got a good head on his shoulders. Talking to Schaefer at the finals as an 18-year-old kid, it makes me think of like the NFL, how we hear so much about the interview process and all these little things. It feels like it's nitpicking. And I'm always thinking to myself, it's not necessarily the case in hockey. Like, let's be honest. Like sometimes guys have been great leaders, great players, and they have a personality of a peanut. It doesn't matter. Can you play? You know what I mean? So I don't know if it has ever really been a huge factor in hockey, but I think with Schaefer, like it's relevant. Like I see how he carries himself, and it carries over to the season that we're seeing. Composure, quiet feet, no panic, goes into a puck battle, comes out clean in ways that it's not supposed to happen at the National Hockey League level, let alone from I hate to call him a kid, but a kid. So, man, times are definitely exciting for the future of the Islanders, man. This kid's fun to watch.
And we'll get into the Devils and Rangers about what excites us too, but I actually want to stick with this and ask you a question, Rupper, because I was blown away by every interview Matthew Schaefer does, I'm blown away. Like his confidence, his swagger, and just his like charisma. He's so easy to like just love, right? He's the most lovable 18-year-old I've ever seen come into the NHL. But at that same time, like if you're a veteran guy in the locker room and he's doing TNT, he's chirping Hank, he's having fun with it, but then like I think the night before Zadorov runs him over. I think he's like drawing attention to himself almost. So if you're an older guy in that team, are you going to tell him to reel it in a little bit? Or is it like great that he's showcasing this personality and having eyeballs drawn on him?
I think it's the opposite. I think you pull him aside and be like, you be you do everything you're doing, and we got your back, and we're going to insulate you in any way, whatever that means. And we've already seen it. I mean, we saw it. I think the first incident was against the Red Wings, Mason Appleton late in the game. I love the response. And it kind of mattered who was on the ice. I think it was Cizikas and Mayfield that went over, and you would expect those guys too, because that's what they do. But this Zadorov one, I mean, just we got you. I think that was one of the biggest things, and it's a little different. My first NHL game, I was centering Turner Stevenson and Jim McKenzie, and I was by far the least tough on that line. Okay. Those guys came to me, and it was a little different way of saying it, but they said, "Hey, you do whatever you want out there, say whatever you want, do whatever you want. We got you." And it allowed me to go out and feel comfortable. So I think those are conversations I have with Matthew Schaefer. You be you. If the whole hockey world's talking about you, we're going to protect you in any way we possibly can. Everybody knows that he's the future of the organization.
And with that, Arthur, I'll send it back to you here. I just watched the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm watching them play against Washington, and Logan Stankoven just dropped the gloves to protect Jackson Blake. Like, do you think having Schaefer out there, maybe even with like a Barzal, like a guy who's not known for dropping them, like, is he more likely now to want to defend a guy like that? Does it make them overall tougher having him out there in a sense?
There's a big debate among the fan base about, do they need to go out and get an enforcer? Do they need a Ryan Reeves type to keep the kid clean and keep the flies off him? And my feeling is, like Rupper said, you saw the reaction the first time with Mason Appleton, where, you did have the fourth line guys out there, and Scott Mayfield has been his partner the majority of the season. Then again, Garnet Hathaway was trying to mess with him when they were in Philly. Mayfield took care of that. Kyle McLean was another one who was out there who kind of understood his role. But that Zadorov one, the first guy in was Anthony Duclair. And that is, Duclair is not known as a guy who does that kind of stuff. And Zadorov is a beast. And he just jumped on his back and wrestled him away. And there's two things, I guess. Schaefer seems to be willing to give as much as he's getting too. He was holding on to Zadorov's stick, kind of encouraging it a little bit. And you see whatever he's among the league leaders in penalties drawn already. And it's not just because of extracurricular stuff. It's because of what he's doing between the whistles too. But I think the way that he's playing and what he's brought to that team, which is a veteran team, and that core of that group has been together for a long, long time. I think he's galvanized them. They've stagnated a bit over the last couple of years. The results weren't there after Barry Trotz left. Just really up and down. Even when Patrick Waugh took over, they had a nice run in the middle of that season 2 years ago. Last year was not good at all. And so now you're in this in-between spot where they need a jolt. This kid has given it to them, and I think they are a tight-knit group. And I think they've all said to themselves, I don't know if anybody's had to say it to them. Anders Lee has been a captain for a long, long time there. They're saying, like Rupp was saying, let the kid be himself. Mm-hmm. Let him do what he's doing to produce great results and be such an effective player. And if anybody messes with him, everybody has to step in. So, yeah, I'd be curious to see if Barzal's on the ice or a guy like Jonathan Drouin is maybe not used to doing that too often. I think it's an all hands on deck type situation. And I think it makes the team closer and it makes them a little bit more productive because they know what they've got in this kid.
You may get an extension for stepping in there too. Just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, what we're talking about here. So good on the guys sticking up for him. I love to watch that.
Yeah. Rupper, did you experience that all? And again, like two completely different players, but you were kind of there for the start of it. Like Zach Parise, early years with the Devils, like he was kind of a young stud, right? Was that something that you kind of watched form in your time in Jersey? I don't think you were there for his rookie year, though, right? You came back.
No, I was not there for his rookie year. Zach and I would always joke around. He was kind of my little brother in regards to the way I viewed him. And I had a lot of fights in my career that were the old fights of just lining up and, trying to get something going. I never really did well in those, but if anytime someone messed with Zach, it was always some of my better fights. I remember one time we were playing Atlanta and Braden Coburn, Zach kind of came in down the left wing, took a shot and was off balance. And Coburn just kind of finished him or gave him a shot, slid from that awkward distance from the boards. And he went in pretty ugly. And so I ended up fighting Coburn. And I remember after the game, Lou coming up to me and like a proud father, I didn't have to say anything. Just patted me on the back, looked me in the eye, and he said, "Michael," just nodded his head down. The other time was probably Ryan Holwig. Ryan Holwig, the same thing when Holwig was in Toronto, took a run at Zach. And so it was just, you got to do it. You got to do it. And teams that react, and to go what Arthur said too, and bringing it back to the Islanders, I don't think they need to go get a Ryan Reeves or one of those types of guys. I think the model that we're seeing is in South Florida. Florida Panthers, they've got Gadjevich, he's tough. They've got, AJ Greer will step up and fight whomever, but they don't have you look at a lot of the individuals on that team, and if you took them at different parts of their career, they're not tough. But when you mess with one of them, you got 17 of them that are going to jump on your back. That makes them very tough to play against. So that's every coach's dream, have a team like that. We don't need one guy. One guy doesn't make you tough. I played against George Laraque. George Laraque was tough as nails. I never wanted to mess with him, never fought him. But the teams, they bring him in on teams that were soft teams. That doesn't make your team tougher. That makes me cognizant of when he's on the ice. It doesn't make you tougher, though. So I think the Islanders are doing fine the way they are right now.
Well, let's transition to the Devils. Obviously, they find their first loss at home last night against the Islanders in overtime, a game where they tied it with 4 seconds left. A lot to be excited about in Jersey. You can point at Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt. They're the two obvious ones, but this team right now off to a very hot start. And I'm curious, maybe we can kick it back to Arthur. Is there one thing about the Devils right now outside of Bratt and Hughes that you're looking at and saying, wow, this team actually could be poised to go on a real legit run this spring?
I think the thing that I like the most is that there's not one thing that stands out. You look at their metrics, they're very average so far. Goaltending has been a little bit, mediocre, maybe even a little bit shaky at times with Jacob Markstrom when he missed some time, and Jake Allen's kind of held the fort. Their D, they're banged up. Brett Pesce's out long-term. Dougie Hamilton was out this past week. Up front, Connor Braun was a great free agent addition, has been out. But they have a depth at both on defense and up front that they haven't had, I think, in a few years. And they're finding ways to win games. That game last night, they almost pulled that off. They had gone to overtime in their previous 2 at home without Hamilton, without Pesce. You're seeing Luke Hughes play 25 minutes a night on his offside just to, playing on the second pair. You're seeing a young guy in Simon Nemec who's had his struggles, but he's kind of persevered through it, and he's playing major minutes now because they're essentially rolling out 4D for NHL defensemen, really. And I just, Rupper, you can definitely speak to this, and you too, Johnny, when you played in college. When you're part of a good team, I've talked to enough guys on enough good teams, you just know it. And I think the Devils know it. They are, the 8-game winning streak really cemented it for them right off the hop. They were getting great production from that second line, which I really like a lot. They're scuffling lately, but that Timo Meier, Nico Hischier, Dawson Mercer line, there's no second line like that in the league for me. Hughes and Bratt are great up top. You've seen guys like Connor Brown come in and have an impact. You've seen a young guy like Artemi Panarin, who's got a great personality, showing it off on his Telegram channel and kind of enjoying life as a new American over here, in the States for the first time from Russia. Luke Hughes, who held out all through training camp. It's just all seemingly come together, and it's a long season, and you can definitely stumble, and injuries can be a part of it, and you may not get to the ultimate goal. But I feel like when I look at the teams in the East, in the Metro, they're the team that looks like they know how to win the most, and that's a really good thing to have this early in the season.
But as a Devils fan, and I'll kick it over to you, Rupper, too, it's got to be so frustrating with how good they've been now the past couple of years, but they just can't get out of their own way being riddled with injuries. I mean, again, Dougie, like you said, Arthur out, and Pesce is a huge absence back there. Even Kovacevic is another one who's injured too. So that's 3 right-handed shot defensemen already out. And I don't know if you've been on teams like that, Rupper, but what is a locker room like when you're missing that many key pieces and you have to, maintain to stay in first place in the division?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to always just use the same phrases, next man up, but I mean, you got to, just like Arthur said, I mean, you got, all right, Luke, you got the deal. You're a stud. You got to go play your offside and not just play it. You got to do it well for us to kind of survive the injuries that we have, but then also have other people stepping up. I think there's been stretches this year where Jack has been incredible, absolutely incredible watching him. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I don't know really what you do about it. It's been kind of a reoccurring thing over the last number of years. It really has been frustrating, I think, watching them because you're expecting steps and you never know. It's kind of what if because of the injuries. So, but you're also learning things about guys, like Nemec there's a lot of question marks with him. He's had moments in his career. I mean, where he got drafted. I mean, you're talking about a second overall pick, and it's everybody's path is different. And he had that big goal in the playoffs, and he's had moments, but not sustainability. And this is kind of forcing him to get looks, and he's really answered the bell. So I guess if you're going to look at the silver lining of it all, Simon Nemec has found a level. Now, the big question is going to be when they're healthy, can he keep it going that way? I like to think he can because it's all about the progression and growing as a young player, especially a defenseman. So, man, I just this team is, what the one thing that really jumps out to me with this team, and I don't know what they're going to be doing down the stretch. I mean, there's a lot of things they're doing good. I still have some question marks with them, but I always think if you look at a team's third line, for me, it tells me a lot. And I know they're not fully healthy. You mentioned Connor Brown. What's Cody Glass going to look like? I think Sheldon Keefe really likes him. I think since he's come back, he's had, I think, 3 games back from injury. He's a right-hand shot center, which is huge on this roster. Palat kind of slots in nicely there. Griciuk's been awesome playing with them as well. Connor Brown will probably figure into that equation some way, shape, or form. But now all of a sudden it's like they've got a really good third line. And to me, if they can get that line to go out there, gives good defensive minutes and chip in with some points, man, I really think this team could be dangerous.
Okay, so before we get into the Rangers, Arthur, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I was going to just jump in with
Yeah.
the little bit that I've heard, kind of combining our two teams that we've talked about already.
Mm-hmm.
I know just from talking to some people that the Islanders, Matthew Darsh, his first year as GM, he did talk to Tom Fitzgerald about Simon Nemec in the summer. I would imagine that whatever package the Islanders are looking for, because they're very short on right defensemen in their organization, that at Colorado first-round pick that they got for Brock Nelson is probably the thing that they're dangling the most. Clearly the Devils didn't feel like they were ready to give up on Simon Nemec for that kind of package. But now as we're getting into the season and Rupper's talking about the third line and Cody Glass, guy who's been injured a lot, has already been injured this season. Mm-hmm. And if the Islanders are still bobbing along at 500 or maybe even below it, is JG Pageau a guy that can slot right in for the Devils? Because I feel like that's a guy that they're missing in Jersey, a guy who is kind of like a Palat, not with the Cups, but with a lot of playoff success. A guy who can play anywhere in your lineup. He wins faceoffs. He kills penalties. He can take the heat off of some of their top six guys in terms of some penalty killing and difficult defensive situations. I don't know that there's a match there that the Islanders can pry Mo Nemec out for JG Pageau, but I feel like we've seen it go the other way. Like Lou, called up his old team twice when the Islanders were going well to get Andy Green and then Kyle Palmieri. So maybe it goes the other way now. Something to keep
Zajac too, no?
And Zajac, yeah, he was part of that Palmieri trade.
Which is wild because it used to be where if Lou was traded, you're going on the other side of the earth. If he's trading you, you're going to the Western Conference, or they usually don't have those, especially in division. JG Pageau would be a good fit. I'm a big Pageau guy. And you look at Islander fans know playoff time, give me him all day of the week. Because there's certain things, elements, and players. That guy's a gamer. I don't care. Yeah. I don't care what his numbers are in the regular season. He's so smart and he's so useful in different ways. I think that'd be a great fit. I think right now, and there's time, obviously, till deadline, I think the Devils are really going to try to smoke out what they have in Cody Glass. I really think Sheldon likes him a lot. And but they definitely, if it's not going to be Glass, if he's hurt, if it doesn't work out with his consistency, they certainly need a right-hand shot centerman.
Mm-hmm. And I was going to ask you guys before we go into the Rangers here. That's a good little nugget, Arthur, just talking about Simon Nemec, because I feel like he'll be a guy that we talk about obviously a lot throughout the year on this show, just knowing once those guys come back and Pesce and Hamilton and Kovacevic, what happens to Nemec in the lineup, right? Because right now he's playing second power play, but that's because those two guys, Pesce's not really much of a power play guy, but Dougie obviously is, and they were rotating Dougie and Luke Hughes back and forth, as the power play quarterbacks, and you got to think that knocks out Nemec when Dougie comes back. So is there a need for Nemec as like a third pair D if Dougie's playing power play when you have Pesce back and Kovacevic, right? Like that's kind of a tough question for Sheldon Keefe and Tom Fitzgerald. I don't know if you guys want to allude to that right now, but that's obviously going to be a talking point, I feel like, as this show progresses. Any thoughts on that before I ask you my first debate question of the show?
I think that, I don't know what you guys say. I mean, I think a lot of it's what are they doing with Dougie? Him being healthy. I mean, that's been the big storyline. It goes back to when Luke signed his deal. That's kind of put the focus on Dougie Hamilton. Is he expendable? I thought he was playing his best defensive hockey as far as defending, playing physical that I've ever seen Dougie Hamilton play before he got hurt. But to your point, if Nemec keeps doing well, eating minutes, being a minutes muncher, and playing good brand of hockey, I think that's your answer. I think it makes Dougie somewhat expendable. And I like Dougie Hamilton. But this team is, if they continue to do what they're doing right now, you got to feel like this is your year. So you might have to do something else down the road. And maybe that could free up the opportunity to do that.
And just to preface, I know most Devils fans already know this as they're listening, but this is Dougie's 5th year in Jersey, and of the 5, he's only played one 82-game season.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like been his story there. But okay, here's the first Johnny debate question for you guys on this show, and there's going to be a lot. Some are going to be silly, some are going to be smart. Not sure where this one falls, but
smart. Okay, I'm ready. I need.
Well, the glasses are on. The glasses are on.
Yeah, I missed the memo on the glasses, boys.
Very studious.
So glasses off. Probably a stupid opinion. Oh. Glasses off. A little bit less stupid. A little bit less stupid. A little bit less.
Now we'll know. I can tell. Okay, we good.
So, which guy would you say? Again, we're going to go into the Rangers in a minute here, Ranger fans listening. But which guy would you say has more to prove right now? And those two guys would be Jack Hughes, Matt Barzal. because obviously 2 different points of their careers right now, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say, because I think Islander fans have been waiting for Barzal to be that 85-point rookie of the year, guy that they saw. And Jack Hughes, it feels like the whole league is waiting to see a guy who can play big in the biggest moments. And I know he's been injured and hasn't had a chance to play in the playoffs last year, and he's only got one playoff performance or experience so far in his career. But it feels like those 2 guys are in similar positions, right, where they kind of have to prove that they are that next level kind of player in different senses, though.
Yeah. No, take that one, Arthur.
I'll go Barzal has more to prove. I think coming off the injuries from last year, obviously he goes out and the team kind of goes in the tank. So his importance is still there. New GM, new set of eyes. He and Lou got along really well. And I think the healthy scratch down in Raleigh for oversleeping, that was you see that, and your initial reaction is what's going on behind the scenes. Barzy came out and said alarm clock issue, overslept, and leave it at that. He even got chirped by his old buddy Anthony Beauvillier when they were in DC the next day. Bo left an alarm clock in Barzal's stall in the visitors room.
So good. So good.
Good on Bo for that one. That's he's probably been waiting a long time to get back at Barzy for something. But I think for Matt, they're playing a style that suits him well. This is the style that Patrick Waugh wants to play. They want to be much more up-tempo. He put his offense to bed for the sake of the team under Barry Trotz, and there were a lot of conversations between Barry and Barzal about sacrificing your points for the good of the team and the style they needed to play, and it certainly worked out with 2 semifinal trips back-to-back. But I think he wants to break out and be part of this offense, and he is. There's not anybody on the team and very few people in the league that can get that burst going like he got in overtime last night to beat the Devils. He's a unique player like that. He's got to be there. He's got to stay healthy. But I think where the Islanders are compared to where the Devils are, and Jack, I think Jack hitting his ceiling, which I think he did during that 8-game win streak, he's an MVP candidate. He's a no doubter. When he's playing like that, he is as good, as important to his team as McKinnon is, as McDavid is. Those guys, obviously unique talents, but Jack is not very far off. And I think where the Devils are in their progression as a franchise is a different spot than the Islanders. We're still, Matthew Darsh's first season. He's still evaluating, is Patrick Waugh going to be here for the long term behind the bench? There's a lot still up in the air. And I think that means to me that Barzal has a lot to prove. And then you throw in the disciplinary stuff from a couple weeks ago. And yeah, it's fair to wonder, will he be a central part of this team going forward?
Mm-hmm. Rupper, your thoughts?
That's tough, man. Johnny, that's a good question, bud.
Good start. Yeah. 1 for 1, baby. 1 for 1.
I don't know if the goal was trying to stump us, but here's the thing. I think the only thing that Jack has to prove is that he can stay healthy. And I know that he's probably tired of hearing that, but that's the only thing, man. This kid, he's a stud. He's a star. I know that I'm kind of speaking on behalf of the Devils, but for the fan bases, the Rangers, Islanders fans, you guys have seen it. You don't have to like him. But the kid, his biggest problem is staying healthy. That's it. So I think he's an absolute gamer, can elevate when they need it most. So I'm going to say the more pressure is probably on Barzal. And here's why. Basically, everything that Arthur said. This is finally a team that is looking like it's taking on the direction that a player like Matt Barzal should thrive in. It's a team that can score now. We're looking to score. We're looking to create. All the things that happened before, I'm not going to poo-poo it. They made it to 2 Eastern Finals, man. They did it in a way that all the people out there that were like, oh, this is boring. It's this, it's that. It was successful. And that's a touchy thing with me. And I was rooting for the Islanders at that time because I played under Lou's old regime too. And it was boring, but we won. Isn't that the whole game plan here?
Yeah.
We want to win, right? But now it's like, Barzy did take that for the team. I think it was a struggle at times. I think it was a big time struggle, and it was frustrating on both sides. But he eventually got his game to a point where he was much more responsible. His numbers reflected more having a more conscious effort on the D side. Well, now it doesn't mean just forget defensive hockey now, but this should be his bread and butter. So I think that's where there's pressure. Now he's got a guy on the back end there. You talk about skating ability. You see 48 going up ice. You move your feet, you're gone. I mean, Horvat got one of the best shots in the National Hockey League. He's feeling it right now. So I think this is everything that Barzal's wanted. It's heading in that direction, and there's pressure on him to deliver offensively.
I got to tell a good Barzal story actually too. So here's where Ranger fans chirp me, obviously, because I love Jack Hughes and I love Matt Barzal. I've gotten to know both guys decently well over the years now, but I might get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. My girlfriend, one of her best friends, her boyfriend is friends with Matt. So Matt actually got the three of them tickets to the game on Saturday night. So after the game, the players come up, they talk to the friends. I went to meet up with them. The girls had already gone, and I saw Matt. I was like, "Where'd they go?" He goes, "Oh, they walked out, but sorry about that one, big boy." After they won 5-0. So, I love Matt Barzal. I got obviously I got to know him over the past couple months here. Rooting for both guys again. Like this market, I think all fan bases, even nationally, everyone is so tough on these two guys. And I think in Jack's regard, people forget how good he was in that 2023 playoff. Like he dominated the Rangers. He really did. Like he was a showman.
Being down 0-2 and he took it on, that's something I think that we haven't seen it much because that was his only playoff run.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen, put it this way, and I know we're not talking about some other teams here. He had a moment, and it might not be a long one, but he had a moment where he elevated and he drug that team through. And that's what I always get in these arguments because I'm like, Austin needs to have a moment. He has not had that moment. So you can say whatever you want. And most people are going to say they like Austin over Jack, and I get it. But Jack showed me he's got another level when the team needs it, and I'm still waiting for 34 to do that.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be that Game 6 goal he had against Florida, and then they had a stinker in Game 7. But
yes.
Again, not talking about the Leafs here. Sorry, Vic. Happy birthday. The Leafs suck. Let's go into the Rangers. So I actually, you know what? I do feel bad that we didn't give Bo Horvat his flowers, though. 12 goals in his last 13 games. Hottest goal scorer in the NHL right now. I think that's not even a stretch to say. So credit to Bo Horvat. He's really, started out this year on fire. And Arthur, I don't know if you want to touch on that, but had to say that.
He's been awesome. And to see him kind of gel so well with Emil Heineman, who seemed like kind of a throw into that big Noah Dobson trade. Noah Dobson's name, you don't even hear it around the Islanders anymore. Schaefer obviously has a lot to do with that, but Dobson was a 70-point guy 2 years ago. And that was a big move, and it obviously restocked the cupboard for the Islanders farm system. They get Schaefer, but they also get those other 2 first-round picks with Keishon Aitchison and Victor Eklund, who are 2 guys who were projected top 10 picks. They get them at 15 and 16 or 16 and 17. Turn the Islanders prospect pool around. And then you get Heineman, who was a 4th-line guy in Montreal, and now he's riding shotgun with Bo Horvat with, I think, 11 points already, contributing, making a decent contribution to what Horvat's done so far. So, the Islanders have really – that's going to end up being a signature Matthew Darche move. Dobson is obviously doing well. The Canadians are a real good team, and he's added to that. But I think this was kind of a win-win trade for the Islanders, for Matthew Darche, be able to get Heineman, get those picks, and kind of elevate Heineman to be this guy who can be a top 6 wing because he's playing with one of the hottest guys in the league.
Yeah, and he could shoot the puck too. That kid Heineman can rip it. But now let's go into the Rangers. And again, just to preface this for our listeners, this won't be how the show is set up every week. This is episode 1. We just kind of want to talk about all 3 teams. Obviously, we have another episode coming out Friday. Whatever the trending topic is going into Friday, we'll probably start with that and work our way through each 3 teams. But just wanted to let everyone know because this is episode 1, right? Like we got to let the people know what they're going to be hearing. But the New York
just got to jump in and say, clearly we picked the Rangers last because Johnny does not want to talk about them that much because they've had such a mediocre start. This is Johnny's deal right here. Right. He is the host. He's the facilitator. And he said, hey, let's pick the Rangers. Let's talk about the Islanders and Devils first. Maybe we'll leave the Rangers for the end. If there's time, we can talk about them. We'll see.
Well, here's what I will say. While I'm very happy about the 6-3 win last night against Nashville, as far as performances go, in the 8 home games the Rangers have played, that wasn't one of their best
That's
ones.
probably one of the weaker ones.
Yeah,
No?
but the pucks just went in. And like that's how hockey goes sometimes. But I don't think the Rangers could have been outshot 150-5 last night. If they saw 3 pucks go in, they would have been happy. Like I think they just needed the result. And obviously you can feel good about process and feel good about generating offense, limiting defensively, but at some point you just need results. And I think that's what Mike Sullivan kind of alluded to last night when I spoke with him. But I'll start with you, Rupper, on the Rangers here from afar. Has it been as bad as the story has seemed, or are you still confident the Rangers are like a competitive, flirting with the playoffs team?
I think I'm not overly concerned, to be honest with you. I mean, and we'll say this because I've been known to frequent the Garden, Prudential Center. Like I really genuinely want to see these 3 teams all thriving. I mean, hell, throw Philly in there. This region is such a unique spot in the National Hockey League and the United States geographically, where we got all these teams. I'm thinking back. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. When have these 3 teams all been good at the same time? Very
The
rarely.
2023 season, I think all 3. That was the last time all 3 made the playoffs.
Yeah. Right, but like when you're going back in time, like legitimate,
like good,
teams.
like contender,
good. Okay, so let's go 80s. I mean, 80 Island, early 80 Islanders. The Devils weren't even there for parts of that. Mm-hmm. So the Devils were the Mickey Mouse franchise. Wayne Gretzky stated that. And then by the time you get up to
07, maybe all 3 made
it in the 90s, like
that Islanders.
Yeah, I mean, it was
kind of squeaked in. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure fans threw beer on the ice in that playoff. Anyway.
I want to see it, man. I want all 3 of these teams to be thriving because I think it'd be so fun to watch, and we could be like the first times that any of us are experiencing this. The Rangers, what happened? I don't know. They don't know. I think they were baffled at what was going on at home, and it's wild. It really is wild. There's some days I'm like, man, are they not strong between the years? I don't know. Like there's so many times I can, and I'm not trying to pick on him because I have his Mika jersey back here. I love Mika.
Me too.
But his post games, I'm like, you can't keep saying that stuff. You can't keep saying, I don't know if I should laugh or cry. I don't know. I've never seen anything like this before because they and the reason why you can't say that is because it's like an infection. It's just going to keep. Like at some point you need to have the JT Miller approach. Be like, I'm not talking about it anymore. You know what I mean? Like we're trying to figure it out, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully that's all beyond them and past them. I actually think they will be fine. I think they're a playoff team. To what level? I don't know. I don't know if they're going to score a boatload of goals this year, but their defensive play is night and day better than what it was. I said this to you, Johnny, Arthur, you and I have talked about it. Ranger fans, when you go back and you start looking at some of the numbers of the President's Trophy winning season, they were not good defensively.
No.
They rode the hottest line in hockey. They had an awesome goaltender and they had a great power play. And it just, everything was falling into place, just like everything wasn't falling into place so far to start this season. To answer your question, man, I think they get out of this. Big win against Nashville. We teased that it was Nashville, but hey, you're looking for a win any way you can get it. They defend well. I think they'll be okay. I think the biggest question for me is, honestly, is my bigger concern is what with Panarin. Like, what do you is there something that's going to get done here? Is this going to be something like, I don't think you can afford to have him walk, but at the same time, can you afford to trade him? Because the team that doesn't score goals or has trouble scoring, like that's the wrong guy to move. So that's honestly my biggest concern with them.
Arthur?
Yeah, you look at the metrics, and Steve Valiquette and his Clearsight Hockey data site is my go-to to kind of like figure out, see the trends, whatever. Rangers are lights out, and it's when I'm looking at the expected goal situation for the Islanders, for the Devils, and Devils are, like I said, kind of mediocre in a lot of ways. Their power play is really good, but defensively they've given up a lot. Offensively, they're not generated a ton 5-on-5, but obviously they are where they are. You get the results. Islanders giving up way too many chances. Defensively, really struggling. Ilya Sorokin's been really good lately. I think that's part of their turnaround. They need to tighten it up. But the Rangers, they're top 5 in terms of expected goals at 5-on-5 against a rush where they've been god-awful since Gerard Gallant was the coach. This is a team that I give Mike Sullivan a ton of credit. I know, we know what his pedigree is, but he came in and saw the roster that he had and quickly identified that there's a certain way we have to play to be successful. We've got to build this structure to a different level than it's been. And there were some stops and starts. There were definitely some games where they looked like they were cheating the system a bit, and they paid for it for sure because they've had the worst luck of probably any team in the league so far. But I think the way that they've stuck with it, and really with a not very impressive defensive group now, Keandre Miller had his flaws, but he was a guy that was a really dynamic, such a dynamic skill set. You really wanted to see him on the ice more and kind of help him see him grow, and it just didn't work out here. So now you've got a lower skill group, especially beyond that first pair. You've really only got one guy in Adam Fox who gets up in the play and has that kind of high offensive IQ. And that bottom 6, we think about whatever it was in 22 in the playoffs when the kid line with Capo Caco and Filipino and Alexis Lafrenière was their third line. And all those guys are gone. And now here we are with a bottom 6 that, to me, as a guy who's covered the Islanders for a long time, it looks like some of those Islanders bottom 6s where it's like, where are the goals going to come from? They've obviously gotten some good stuff from Taylor Radish, as a free agent signing. And that fourth line has contributed a lot with Sam Carrick in the middle of Adam Edstrom, Matt Rempe, who's out hurt. Juuso Parsonen's had a couple of good moments, but it's not a skill-laden group. You're really relying on your top guys to score. So kudos to Mike Sullivan for recognizing that quickly and realizing what needed to change. And who would have, shut out 5 times in the first 7 games at home? Like that's like flipping a coin on its head 1,000 times in a row. It's just it's impossible to think of. So I feel like this team has been pretty good. And like Rupper was saying, the President's Trophy team, the metrics didn't look half as good as this. And they are going to struggle to score because they don't have a lot of scorers like they used to. But they could win 2-1. They could win 3-2. Rupper was a part of a lot of Ranger teams that won that way and earned a lot of respect around the league and from fans for being a team that wasn't overly skilled but could find ways to win. And I think if the Rangers can get in a groove and kind of shake off the bad mojo of this first month, I think they'll be okay.
John, So I want to know where you're with these guys every day, man, and at what last night's game just has to let the air out, right? Just okay, can we all just move forward now and go about our business like usual? The one thing I want to say, and I want to kick it to you and your evaluation on it too. It's like Arthur just touched on it. You have the best goalie. I think he's the best goalie in hockey. I think Igor is the best goalie in hockey, and there's some comps, and we can argue like there's other people in that mix, but he's right there. Protect that asset, man. And will sound like I was saying something else there. Protect that ass.
That works too.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know where I was going, but it almost threw myself.
Just on YouTube, you can say what you want.
Hey, protect that ass. You protect his ass back there, and if you want him, like he's going to save you. He's going to save your ass. He has.
Yeah.
What happens if we start just making shots predictable where they're coming from? That's something Igor hasn't seen in some time. Now, all of a sudden, you could see this guy find a whole nother level. So this is like an insurance policy on your investment. Mike Sullivan, I think, is approaching it that way. Now, yes, you need to score goals. So that's going to be the part that Chris Drury's going to have to look at. If the team's not scoring, he's going to have to shake it up. But I love the approach so far as defending, and I think it'll serve them well. Right now, you're seeing success for a lot of teams because this is like the first 20 games is like it's freelance. Independent contractors. Like it's fun hockey. The next 20, it's starting to pick up a little bit. And then when you're talking about the second half of the season, now you're cooking with gas. The good teams will be good, and I think the Rangers will be one of them.
So you guys both mentioned a couple of things that I want to touch on. And first, I actually want to start with Igor Shesterkin. And I can't believe I'm doing this, but somehow I'm making this about the Leafs. Igor had every chance if he wanted to call out somebody, right? the team got shut out in 5 games at home. That
Yeah.
Igor played
This is a
lights
great
out.
point, yeah.
And this guy doesn't say a fucking peep about anybody. He just goes about his business. And again, like Stolarz calls his team out in the second or third game of the season, right? Something like that. So
Yeah.
I respect
How's
Igor
that working out
Shesterkin.
for him so far?
Not great. Definitely not great.
No.
But I respect Igor Shesterkin so much for just being a battler, being a competitor, and just worrying about his job. Right?
Yeah.
He's been emotional at times for sure. He's slammed his stick at times for sure. But end of the day, he knows he just got to make the saves, right? That's all he's paid to do. And he's paid a lot of money to do it. And for the most part, he's done it. Now, Panarin, here's where I want to make a point too to a lot of Ranger fans that have asked me this question. And I actually asked Brian Boyle about it the other night. Mike Sullivan's quote unquote system, any system, and Colby talks about this all the time on our morning show, it's more of a structure than a system. You're not forced to play a certain way. Hockey is a read and react game. You just have structure that you're supposed to go out there and follow, but no coaching affects offensive production. Once the puck's in the offensive zone and you're ripping around, you're playing hockey. That's not, you have to go here with the puck. You have to go there at the puck. You have to go to that spot. You have to receive that pass. Like, the Rangers weren't scoring just because the puck wasn't going in the net. It wasn't because Mike Sullivan had them doing something different, And I think that's the biggest thing about the Nashville game is just I mentioned it. The Rangers had 6 high danger chances in that game. Both Panarin's goals should have never went in. One shot's from the point that beats Saros 5-hole. The other one's like a bank from the goal line. But that's just hockey. If they're playing the right way at some point, Steven Stamkos told me yesterday too, like it's a blip. It's not sustainable. It's got to break through at some point. So having Vinny Trocheck back, I didn't even mention that. Like he's become one of my favorite guys to talk to. Arthur, I know you've talked to him a ton too. He can be very critical, very honest. And also you see how happy he was to get back in that lineup last night and how good he was in every single situation on the ice. So obviously he was talked about this summer as the potential captain, even though the C is not on his chest. He still, to me, is a captain kind of guy. You don't need the C to lead. And I think having him with JT is going to do wonders for this team. But I'll tell you what, JT definitely needs to be a little bit better too, because right now I think the expectations have not been matched so far in this season. He competes and whatnot, but I think Ranger fans are still expecting a little bit more out of him. And I'm sorry for ranting and touching on a bunch of different topics, but I'll let one of you guys take it from here.
Well, let me say that, yeah, and I think, it seemed pretty clear that JT Miller was hurt at the beginning of the year, and then Trocheck gets hurt, and Miller doesn't want to sit out because he's, clearly he's wearing the C, and that C can affect you. I mean, I think you think back, what is it, the last 3 Ranger captains, Ryan Callahan, Ryan McDonough, Jacob Trouba, all traded. And so there is a kind of a psychological burden that comes with getting that C, even if it's something that you want, and I'm sure JT Miller wanted it. But yeah, Vincent Trocheck, he's not the most skilled guy, but he puts people in the right spot. It's no coincidence that your boy Alexei Lafrenière
forgot about
this
him.
Game of the year. Yeah. How could you ever forget about him? You talk about him all the time.
I came across this stat that I may have to fact check it to make sure. I think it's 5-on-5 play, but in the last 2 years in whatever we have this year, so 2 and change, that's the number 2 line in the National Hockey League with points, goals. They have 100. They had 99 goals, I think, over that stretch. The only line better actually is the top line in Montreal. They had 100. So this has been a dominant line in this league for a couple years now. So I mean, did we think it was going to happen the second Vinny got back on ice? The ice, probably not. But it just shows how good this line actually is.
Yeah. Let me also jump in. I want to get both of your takes on this. I think we saw Erik Karlsson speak out in a very covert, I guess, subtle way, talking about the night and day changes with the Penguins with Dan Muse, former Rangers assistant, now in his first year as an NHL head coach. Penguins are obviously off to a hot start. Karlsson, I believe the quote was, this coach is not asking players or him specifically to do things that he's not good at. And it seemed to everyone to be a veiled shot at Mike Sullivan, maybe even a veiled shot at David Quinn, who coached Karlsson in San Jose to a Norris Trophy and was on Mike Sullivan's staff in Pittsburgh last year, still on Mike Sullivan's staff with the Rangers. What do you make of that? When a guy who's it's noise, right? But it is Erik Karlsson. The Penguins are off to a good start. The Rangers are not off to a good start. Does anybody talk about that stuff? Does anybody give it any credence? Do you give it any credence, Johnny? You're around the team all the time. What do you make of it?
I just want to give you the exact quote. This is what Erik Karlsson said to Josh Yohe, I believe, from Pittsburgh. You do the things you're good at and not the things that someone tells you to do. That you can't do. So that's what Karlsson said. And listen, I've played for coaches who wanted me to play a certain style that I was not fit to play. Like, my freshman year at UMass, I played for Greg Carvel. He wanted me to play a run and gun game. I was more of a, poised, make a play over the blue line, over dumping it in, chasing it, and winning a battle kind of player. And I struggled. Like, there are coaches for sure who want their guys or want the personnel they have to play a style that personnel can't exactly play. And I can't speak to Karlsson's experience, obviously, but I'm sure there were things that maybe Quinn and Sullivan wanted him to do that was not in his breadbasket, maybe not something that he had done prior. But to kind of throw a shot at the coaches after the fact, I don't know if I love that move by him doing that in the media, but I think that's more something Rupper can speak to.
Yeah, I mean, so we kind of are left to read between the lines on this a little bit, because we don't have a follow up to say, well, what do you mean? What were you asked to do? We don't fully know all of that. So some of it may miss the mark, but I mean, that's what we're doing here. When you lob something out there like that, it's going to be taken a certain way. Now, I think there's a certain level of it that's endorsing Dan Hughes, deservingly so. He's got that team playing great.
Good
So I
point.
think
Good point.
there's that level that he was endorsing what they're doing now, and that team is playing fast. Everything that they're doing right now, you got to give a ton of credit to everybody involved. Now, there's certainly a shot from the former regime, and here's the thing that I'll say is, again, this me kind of reading between the lines on it. If Mike Sullivan came to me, Michael Rupp, as a player, and said, "Rupper, we need you to score 30 goals, 40 goals," I physically cannot do that. Okay. So that's where the
I
limitation
don't know. You had a
is.
13 one year. You had a 13.
I
Give yourself some
cannot
credit.
physically do that. So if that was asked of me or any other player to just, do this, I can't do that. Now, Erik Karlsson's Achilles heel his entire career has been the defensive side of the puck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guys, we all know this. Defense is a choice. That's
Yeah.
a choice. So Eric's being asked to do something that he doesn't want to do. Like that's where it's at. I don't think Mike Sullivan's asking him to be Gavrikov. I don't. Mike Sullivan is a smart man. He was not asking him to do that. I've covered Penguins games, was calling the games the last 2 years. And I will tell you this, Erik Karlsson is an elite talent that we had the Hall of Fame ceremony yesterday. He'll go in the Hall of Fame. I think he should.
Yeah.
I think he helped change the defensive position before he kind of paved the way for a guy like Cale Makar.
I was just going to say.
Yeah. And Cale Makar plays the game better defensively and all that. But Erik there was a stretch there. Was that 2016? Was that 2016 when they were that one game away from the cup?
Game 7, Pittsburgh. Yeah.
I would argue that he was the best player in hockey. He was playing on one foot in those playoffs. And if you remember. Now, with that being said, Erik plays the game one way. And I got to call the games, and it blew my mind that he does the same. He addresses every play the same. If it's 1-0 for you, 1-0, you're on the other side. If you're up 5-1, he's trying to get the 6th goal. That is what he does. You could be up 1 goal in the 3rd period, a minute left in the game, and he's going behind the back in the neutral zone to go cross ice on a backhand. That's what he does.
Yeah.
And it gets picked off and it goes the other way. Bang, game's tied, losing overtime. So I would have to say he's pretty frustrating for coaches. You know what I mean? So that's the part that hung me up on it, though. It's defense is a choice. I just don't think Erik wants to do that. And that's fine. But, I just wasn't a big fan of the comments.
If you were me, would you ask Mike Sullivan about it at a press conference? I'm too scared, I think.
You know, I know that look that Sully gets on the bench when something goes wrong. I feel like you probably don't want to see that.
I
As
don't. No,
as
I
a
don't.
media
No,
person.
yeah, I
No,
mean,
definitely not.
listen, I mean, it's probably going to die off because Eric's in Sweden with the Penguins. They're over there with Nashville. The Rangers won. It's probably gonna. I don't know. Maybe next time these two teams play, maybe it'll come up. I don't know. I just thought it was. He's an elite talent offensively, man. But I didn't like that one.
Yeah. All right, guys. Time to get into what I think is going to be our favorite part of the show. And we are going to take voicemails from listeners and we'll actually play the voicemails on the show. So people can leave their names, where they're from. If they want to remain anonymous, they can do so. But we will have Vic queue up our first voicemail and it should say on the screen who it's from. So this is from Devil's Joint. I imagine that's not a real name. That's a Twitter name. So let's hear it, Vic.
You know, I find it funny that I've never seen Mike Rupp and Dr. Phil McGraw in the same room at the same time. I think we should look into this. And by the way, let's go Devils, baby. Devil's
Yes.
joint.
All
Hey,
right, we're off to a good start,
very
Rapper. That's
true.
all you.
Wow.
No, he was. Hey, I know Devil's Joint was coming at me on social media. He was hitting me up with Dr. Phil gifts for like 3 days, and finally I replied to him. And he's like, "I've been getting your attention." I'm like, "Yeah, I've seen him." I'm like, "It's pretty good, actually. I'll laugh at
That's
that.
not
I got
bad.
no problem with that, but we appreciate the call on that."
Yeah.
I feel like Rupper, if you go a little bit further with the mustache, top hat, monocle, maybe the Monopoly guy too.
Yeah.
That too. That too.
Yeah,
That too. The best
we
thing
could
about
transition into that.
the best thing about it is when I did it. It was right before Halloween, and people I was running into were like, they're like, "Oh man, is this like go with your Halloween costume?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah,
sure,
it does.
whatever.
Sure."
When I first saw you on our like pre-production call, when we did like our like first run through, I didn't even like realize it was you. Like, it just didn't even look like you. I'm
I
used to the
do it
full
like
beard.
once a year, and I don't know why. It's just like I get sick of the beard, and it's I just shave it, and I mean I've been I've run into people that didn't recognize me, so I mean
Yeah.
I'd say another week and the beard will be back, so we'll be good.
All right. Well, hopefully our next caller has an actual point or question. This one is from Rish. Vic?
Hey guys, this is Rish. I'm a massive Islander fan living up in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. And weirdly enough, I'm starting to already think about the All-Star game in 2027 in UBS Arena. And I'm envisioning Matthew Schaefer as an Islanders All-Star. How beautiful would that be? Am I getting way ahead of myself or what?
Arthur, all you.
Oh, Rish, who's an old friend of mine from covering the Islanders way back when. Love this guy. He's followed me for years. No, you're not getting ahead of yourself. If there was an All-Star game this year, I think he'd be a shoe-in. So
Right
this
there,
is
yeah.
a kid who's gonna. And we were talking about it too, Rupper. I had the same experience as you. I think at the scouting combine, I got to talk to Matthew Schaefer for like 15, 20 minutes. And Rupper, I know you have a son who's just out of his teen years. I have a son who's just out of his teen years. And this is a kid who's 17 years old, who's gone through what he's gone through. And he's engaging in a conversation. He's listening. He's a kid who's present. It's just amazing. It was amazing to me, even in just 15 minutes, to say, yeah, this kid should be the number one pick. Even if it wasn't the Islanders, he's got the character, the things that teams always say they're looking for. So to that end, again, every interview you see, like you said, Johnny, you mentioned how he chirped Henrik Lundqvist his first time on the national broadcast. Like,
Insane.
Think of how the Islander fans felt seeing him do that to Hank, reminding them all that, like, I'm a Long Islander now. I wanted Liam McHugh, the Long Islander, to ask me the first question. Oh, people were in heaven. So this is a kid. He could be minus 47 at the All-Star break with 5 points. He is going to be on an All-Star team every year that he's an Islander. So yeah, Rish, you're not getting ahead of yourself. He's going to be there at UBS for that All-Star game for sure.
That'll be a cool moment. I agree with that.
And he also seems like he's one to put on the show, right? Like, even though he is only 18, like,
totally
he'll embrace every little bit of that. And I think, that'll be actually, you know what? Matthew Schaefer might save the All-Star game, because I think after Four Nations, after Four Nations, I don't think anyone gave a shit about the NHL All-Star weekend. And to see that, to have a, born and bred, basically Long Island, New York Islander in the All-Star game at home with a kid with his personality, that might just be the thing to save the personality. So Rich, I actually love that. And that's all I got to say about it. But yeah, I look forward to that as well. Anything? All right, next one. Oh boy, I feel like there's a trip coming at me here, but this is from Singsy, a big Devils fan, very loyal in our Morning Cup of Hockey chat. God, I can't wait to hear what he has to say. Okay.
Hey boys, Singsy here. Congrats on the new podcast. Love the concept. Question: are the top 3 forwards in the tri-state area all on the Devils? Brad, and of course Jack Hughes. What do you think? I'll listen. Thanks, guys.
Wow.
Now we got to hold on though.
Yeah.
So the whole point is we have to answer this.
Here.
Like, hey, we're going to be talking shit during this time. And we've talked about it before. When we start getting more interaction with the fans, we'll start speaking on behalf of you guys. But we also have to answer it. What's the word I'm looking for? Come on, Arthur, you're better with words. We have
Fairly?
fairly, yeah, okay, that's an easier word.
Yeah.
I wasn't digging too deep into the thesaurus for that one. Sorry, but
no, yeah, I don't know.
I'll jump in. No, Bo Horvat. If we're talking about right now,
are we saying right now? Yeah, right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is kind of
fun. Right now. It's nobody on the Rangers. So
hold on. No. I'm not taking it as right now. I'm saying like right now as far as what they are as a player. So like
you have one game to go win.
Like for an example, I'll use Matthew Schaefer as an example. Like Matthew Schaefer would be in a pretty good conversation, but I don't consider him at this, like, talk to me next year this time. Maybe I would say that, but like right now it's still like he's impressive, but I wouldn't put him there. So I'm saying, yes, give me a playoff series right now. And actually don't do that. Then Schaefer would probably be there. I don't know. This is actually a really good question.
We're talking top 3 forwards. I will give the Devils Jack Hughes and I will give them Jesper Bratt. I don't know if I'm taking Nico over Bo Horvat, even just looking back at the last couple of years. Panarin, obviously, if you're looking to make a line, I'm putting Panarin on the left wing with those 2 guys, and that's a great line. And you could argue Panarin Panarin's the greatest free agent signing in Rangers history. The guy is produced at a level that we've never seen a Ranger produce and even last year when the team was god awful, he still managed to get his points. So when he's going well, he's a top 3 guy. But I think I probably have Nico at 5. Let's put it that way. Hughes, Bratt, Panarin, Horvat.
We might have to make our Metro New York
rankings.
Forward
top 10,
positional ranking.
Why am I the only one who's done a friggin' ranking here, guys? Jump in.
No. I'm still thinking. Because again, like this could be prefaced.
Take the glasses off,
right?
There's smoke coming out of your ears, Johnny. Just go on instinct here.
But this could be prefaced in so many different ways. Like if I'm picking 3 forwards that could like help me play 82 games to get to the playoffs, Panarin belongs there. Panarin's in the top 3. Like he's a guy who produces year in, year out consistently, doesn't really get injured. Like he's a guy who's above a point a game. Like I think there's no denying the fact that Jack is probably number 1 on this list. Like, I don't think there's really any argument.
And I think it's fair to have Bratt be number 2. Like, not just because they're a pair. Like, the kid's a star. Like, I love that. I love Jesper Bratt. He's a fantastic player.
Glasses back on.
But
I agree. But again, like, if it's where the NHL is right, like Horvat is the hottest scorer of anybody in New York right now. Like that. Like, so we're talking today. Like, he's probably in there as the 3rd guy because the Rangers aren't scoring. Right. So I'm taking and Nico hasn't really been that hot to start the year either. So if we're talking now, it's probably those 3. It's probably Jack, Jesper, and Bo Horvat. I'm comfortable saying those 3 right now. Right now.
Okay.
Singsy
really dropped a bomb on us here. That was good.
I think he broke the pod.
Because it's a chirp, but it's a chirp, but it's like I don't know if it's actually a chirp, but it's like
Is it a chirp? If we have to think about it, it's not that much of a chirp.
It's fair. It's fair.
Like it's a real. I would agree with you guys though. It's close. I probably would have Nico higher than you guys.
We're saying right now.
Today,
Bo's been hotter. Bo's been hotter than Nico this year. Like I'm saying right now. That's why it's hard. That's why it's
If we're talking about tomorrow, we have one game. We have a game to play tomorrow. Then I want Bo Horvat. Yes, I want Bo Horvat, Jack Hughes, and probably Bratt. But if we're talking about like for the rest of the season, I want Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes,
do too.
and Artemi Panarin is what.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
I like that.
We
Different.
do need some
Different.
rank. We need to record these. Maybe that'll be the next. We get a regular segment going, a ranking segment.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's actually a good idea. We do need to come up with some segments.
Thanks,
probably,
Singsy.
so.
Way to go, buddy.
Yeah,
You're
good
at
stuff, Singsy. All right, let's get into our next one from Tyler Capola.
How you doing, Johnny? My name is Tyler, and I'm a big New Jersey Devils fan. Love your content and love what you do for the hockey community. Wanted to ask you a quick question on your perspective with the New Jersey Devils blue line, especially the right-handed defenseman. With all the injuries that they have, Dougie, Kovacevic, and Pesce, does Simon Nemec get put in the lineup, or does he stay in the lineup when Kovacevic returns? Or do you think they should have Kovacevic come in and replace Simone? It's very tough right now just because Simone is showing showing a lot of progression, a lot of upside. But Kovacevic is known for that shutdown, just being physical and just bodying some people, especially when it comes playoff time. Do you think they should keep Simone in the lineup, or do you think they should put Kovacevic in replacement?
Okay, so very kind words from Tyler there. I appreciate that, and we kind of talked about this already. But if let's say Pesce and Dougie are both back and healthy as well, and Kovacevic is now healthy, and you got to decide between Kovacevic and Simon Nemec. I think you keep Nemec in there until he plays himself out of the lineup, right? Like he's played well enough to stay in. What, you don't think so?
I disagree. Yeah,
if you take him. But Arthur, whoa, one sec. If you take Simon Nemec right out of the lineup as soon as Kovacevic comes back, how does that kid not ask for a trade? He's already shown he's unhappy. He's already spoken up once. He's unhappy. If you take him right out of the lineup when Kovacevic is back, he's asking for a trade. No way, he's not.
And aside from the points, this kid has struggled a lot. Like you look at some of the guys in terms of chances for and against when they're on the ice, he's among the bottom defensemen in the league. And the Devils are not that bad defensively. They've given up a lot, but they've produced a lot. There's a lot of high danger happening when he's on the ice. And I don't know. I mean, Kovacevic, he's still weeks or months away. So you're talking
not sure.
Back half of the what's that? Yeah, I mean it's a long-term injury. But if you're talking February and you want to ramp up a guy who, if you're choosing between Kovacevic and Nemec as your third pair guy, going into the playoffs, going into a playoff series, potentially against Carolina or somebody like that, or Washington. Like, I don't know if I'm taking Simon Nemec right now, maybe in the future, but not right now. I think Kovacevic is shown to be a guy that I would rather have in there if that's the choice. And having said that, yeah, if the kid wants to ask out because he's got 40 points, but he's also, minus 17 in terms of chances, on ice chances, that's Sheldon Keefe doesn't. I don't think he coaches that way. He's guy's been in the playoffs a few times. He understands what you need to do in the playoffs. I don't think that you change up your organizational philosophy if you're Tom Fitzgerald and Sheldon Keefe. You want to win a Stanley Cup. You want Simon Nemec to be part of it. But if he's not defending well and he's playing, and like Rupper was saying, Dougie Hamilton's healthy. So he's off the power play and he's just giving you 13 or 14 even strength minutes a night and he can't kill penalties. I'd rather have the big dude in there who shoves people around than him.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's third pair, it's that I agree 100% on that. It's Kovacevic. This is them being healthy is a really interesting storyline to follow. If they can get healthy and stay healthy, something's got to give. And is it Dougie? Is it Nemec? For me, that's where the decision's at. So,
like the future, you're saying, right? Like if you're going to move on from one of them.
Yeah, and I mean this is the
they
thing.
Also got Seamus Casey too, Rupper, another right-handed shot who was pretty damn.
Yeah,
skilled.
I mean, so you can't have have in the lineup at once, I believe, Luke Hughes, Dougie Hamilton, and Simon Nemec. Like there's too much freelancing. It's too much. So you've got to have some staples. And I think that you're getting to the point now where we're seeing Luke go do what you do, and then we're gonna have some good defensemen be able to offset some other things. So yeah, it's a great question. The good thing is that we're seeing him develop. So whether that's him, Nemec, whether that's him being here long term and kind of taking that next step, then we're watching it happen before our eyes, or you're seeing him play his value up and can be a nice trade for Tom Fitzgerald.
Send Nemec, Palat, and a pick for fucking Philip Forsberg or something to Nashville, because they're going to be a disaster, right? Like, I don't know. That's something I would do if I'm the Devils. You got to find a way to make that money work. But the Devils also need another top 6 guy, right?
Yeah.
Well, or they need JG Pageau, like we said.
Like you said before. But great voicemail, Tyler. Another, again, like, these are all good conversation starters, so we appreciate it. Next one, I believe this is from Ariel Wood, big Islander fan. So let's hear it, Vic.
Hey guys, Ariel here. Big Barzal fan, but I feel like he is allergic to the slot area and likes to curl back and hang out on the half wall a lot. He has a lot of the same skill set as Jack Hughes and Connor McDavid, but you see those guys really try to get into the slot area, and Barzal seems to avoid it. Wondering what you guys think. Thank you.
McDavid might be a stretch. Again, love Barzal, but nobody's got the skill of McDavid. That said, I think Arthur, you and I feel like have talked about it, or maybe it was me and you, Rupper. But you guys can both definitely speak to this. I feel like there's a lot of similarities with like Scott Gomez, right? Like, he was a guy who skated all around the offensive zone, playmaker, wasn't known for his shot, wasn't a shoot first guy. Like, Barzal is so good at creating separation and finding teammates. He's not a guy who's gonna, get down on one knee in the slot and one time a puck home. That's never really been his game. Saying he's allergic to the slot, yeah, maybe, but like, he's getting the puck there for his teammates, right? Like, that's valuable.
Yeah. Also, Scott Gomez, occasional oversleeper, so good parallel there too.
Oh,
is that true?
He was known to, I think, test a curfew or two, or
really
test the limits of when you could be on time. Maybe we could get Gomer on here to talk about that. But
he's the best. Didn't he also wasn't he the assistant coach for the Islanders when Barzal,
he was? He ran their power play for a brief period.
So what are you saying? He top Barzy how to go about his business?
How to oversleep? Yeah, you got to learn from the best, right? So I think the thing that we've seen with Barzal, and we didn't really get into this, but he's playing center right now because they weren't really. The lines weren't very balanced, and he started the year at center, and then he bounced back to Horvat's wing. I think he's a wing. I don't think he's a center. I think he's a guy who can be a wing with a straight line guy like Horvat. He's a guy who can win puck battles. He's got a really quick stick. I think he worked a lot on picking guys' pockets at the blue line, trying to get himself up the ice for odd man rushes. That was the thing he's talked about the last couple of years. He doesn't do faceoffs very well. And again, the middle of the ice, he's there to make plays up the ice. He is not there to grind it out in front of a net or even to be in a shooting position like Horvat on their power play. And that bumper has been pretty lethal. That's really the only positive they've had on the power play the last couple of years. That's not Barzal's game. Like Ariel was saying, he is a half wall guy. He's a curl and assess type guy when he gets in the zone. I think he's starting to get that out of his game, doing it too much. Like, I think he fell into a rut a bit before last season doing that. But I think his skill set is suited to be, you mentioned Philip Forsberg. Forsberg's more of a scorer, but this is a guy who can make plays from the wing. And I think that's really his spot. If the Islanders, they traded their number 2 center last year, that would allow Barzal to be a wing. And I don't know that Cal Ritchie is going to be a guy who's going to jump right in and be that guy. Maybe that's something that Matthew Darsh looks for in the next couple of years, to find another number 2 center so that Barzal can be a winger. But I think we think of him as a center because a lot of guys who play his way are centers, but I don't think he's a traditional center. I don't think he's a guy who operates well in traffic and between the hash marks. It's just not his game, and you can be successful without that, but yeah, I don't think that's his style.
Yeah,
Rupper.
I like seeing him shoot the puck more. I think he's got an underrated shot. I think Barzy over the years, I've always wanted to shoot the puck more. But yeah, it kind of, I mean, you get to the point now, you kind of are what you are at this point, right? And I mean, that sounds very negative. He's a hell of a talent. We know that. But yeah, no, I would agree. He's not going to necessarily be in those areas. That's why you gotta compliment him with the right guys. But I think playing this style will maybe show us some things in him that we haven't seen before. So
Yeah.
maybe that's one of them that we'll find.
Off to a great start, right? 13 points, 15 games, I think, so far,
Yeah.
4 goals,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, that's a good another good voicemail though from Ariel. This one is from Dabo. Let's hear
Hey
it.
boys, big fan of the show here. Rupper was a big fan of the playing career that you had. Gave us some really great moments. It was always fun watching you. But anyway, to get to it, I'm a Rangers fan. I'm a season ticket holder as well. And obviously, with the exception of last night, as everybody knows, we've been very, very bad at home and just unable to put the puck in the back of the net. Everybody seems to be asking what the reason is for this, et cetera, et cetera. One thing that I haven't seen anybody bring up, and Rupper, maybe now that you're not playing any longer, you can speak to this now, because I think obviously the current players aren't going to speak to it, at least publicly. But how much can we attribute the dead crowd at Madison Square Garden factoring into these inability for the home team to really get up? I mean, it's a beautiful arena. The renovations they've done have been great. But there's a lot of people, diehards, that just aren't really able to get to the games anymore. It's obviously a different crowd than it used to be. I can't imagine as a player, especially a home team player, it's easy to get up for those games and it's fun to play in front of. Let me know. Thanks.
All you, Rupper.
I mean, I think that. Thank you for the kind comments too.
Mhm.
Off the top, when they're scoring and they're playing their style, that place can get pretty loud. I mean, but that's the problem is that it's kind of the chicken and the egg a little bit, because the fans need to get woken up, and so when you're not doing it, it's extra quiet, and then they do boo when you don't score in the first period. And I mean, that's part of playing in New York, right? So yeah, you know what, it's funny that you say it like that, because I just, it's such a special place to play, and the energy that it brings. um but there is times when it's bad there. I don't know why. It's when it's bad at MSG, it's a morgue, and it almost adds more pressure, because I don't know. It's, you can't get lost in the moment. Like, you're just feeling the nervousness. You can almost feel it watching it on television. It just feels different. So yeah, I mean, it's a great point. Hopefully that's all behind, and the team starts getting the right brand of hockey. And because when it's going, I mean, I think back to that. You had a few years ago when they beat the Devils. That playoff run, man, that was something. Going to those
Mhm.
games, they went to a couple games each round, and it was a loud atmosphere. So yeah, I mean, Ranger fans, do your thing, man. Let these
Yeah.
guys lift them up out of this a little bit.
I'd like to jump in here also before you get corrected in the comments. The Devils beat the Rangers in that series, and
Oh, what I say?
yeah, you said when
Oh,
the
I'm
Rangers beat
sorry.
the
Yeah,
Devils.
no, not that year.
Um,
Not that year. I was talking the year. I was talking to the East final year. What year was that?
Oh, 2024. Okay. The Rangers beat Washington. They beat Carolina, and then they lost to Florida that year.
That year, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that year.
I just don't want you to get crushed by Devils fans. So, you know. But what I will say, Dabo, it's a good point, and I actually have like a long thought about this. But I was thinking to myself, the Rangers were up 4-1, and I said it out loud. To who was sitting next to me at the game the other night, Larry Fleischer. I said to Larry, I was like, for a game that the Rangers are winning 4-1, for a building that's been waiting to erupt, it's fucking dead in here. I would think there'd be like at least a couple of "Let's Go Rangers" chants when they're scoring goals and filling the net, right? But I think a big thing this year too is that until last night, maybe they had not removed the stink from last year, right? Like last year, people were showing up to the Garden and they were. I even said it to Arthur in the press box. I was like, I am not having fun here. Like I'm at Madison Square Garden for work, and I'm like, this sucks. They're down 5-0 to Buffalo after 2 periods. I want to peel my eyes out, So I think they needed last night to almost like put last year behind them, right? Because they hadn't given the fans a show yet. And Rupper, to your point, like New York fans are New York fans. Like they are coming for the show. It's an entertainment city. And if you don't give them the show, they're not going to give you the love that Vancouver is going to do if your guys, hadn't scored a goal in 10 games and they're chanting Petey, like that's just not how it is. Would I love to see more of that? Yes, I think.
They're going to chant. They're going to chant something.
Yeah. There'll be some chants for sure.
Yeah. Asshole. But I would love, fans to, especially at MSG, like uplift the guys more. But to the fans, like they're paying $300 to get into the building. Like if you don't like what you're seeing, boo. You have the right to. That's all I got to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to the mid 2010s, and those were not scoring teams. You weren't waiting. Garden crowd wasn't waiting for them to score. Hank would make a big save. There'd be a couple blocks. You can create the fandom that you want with the style of team you have. And I think the change from them being this high wire east-west offense that had them got, and Igor making 10 bell saves that they had 2 of the previous 4 years, you get used to that as a fan base. You get used to getting up and being excited. I mean, in 2022, when Philip Hedl had that unconscious game against Carolina, I think it was game 3 or 4 of that series in the second round. When the kid line was just wheeling it around, like that's as loud as I've heard it in a long time. And I go way back. My first playoff series I covered was the Ranger Devil series in '94 when I was just out of college. So it's they can get loud and they can get into the style of play that the Rangers play. They're not going to not get behind a team just because they're changing their style or their system. And they're not, like you said, they're not, Mike Sullivan's not coaching them to not score goals, but when they're not going in and they didn't do shit last year at all at home or anywhere else, I think everybody's kind of sitting on their hands saying, am I going to see this garbage again? And those early season crowds, you do need to win them over. You do. Mm-hmm. They've made enough changes. You do need to do something to make them be on your side and be vocal. And maybe last night was the thing to get them. It's too bad they're going out on the road for a couple, but you got to do it. They're a what have you done for me lately kind of crowd here in New York. We all know that.
They appreciate certain things. I think the loudest and some of the most, maybe not even the loudest, just the buzz. We have to admit the last few years has been 7-3, right? Like that when the puck gets dumped in the corner, you got Rempe going in there. Like that you could feel and I'm not saying that's going to all happen again. That was something unique, but it gave a buzz at the place. So
you want a face-off. They were celebrating like it was a goal.
Like they want good hard work, man. They don't want to get shut out. And I know that's it wasn't a choice. The Rangers weren't like, we're not going to play hard. We're not going to score goals. They were playing hard at times, but they want to see results of something. So if you can't score a goal, go knock someone's head off. You know what I mean? I think that's the thought process with the fans. They want to see something. So
another good voicemail. We got 3 left. I don't even know how long we've been going, guys, but I got to tell you, I could do this for 5 hours. I'm already loving this show. Next one is from Jake. Let's hear it.
All right, guys. Big fan, all you guys. Massive Ranger fan. Name's Jake. I wanted to say one thing. Is it almost negligent not to trade Artemi Panarin unless the Rangers are top 2 in their division? Because respectfully, I don't think anyone thinks that they're capable of going on a Stanley Cup run with this team. I know all the analytics suggest maybe, but you trade Artemi Panarin, you get a first-round pick, a young prospect. I think that almost changes the trajectory of the organization a little bit, especially that doesn't have a lot of prospects in the system outside of Gabe Perreault, Fortescue, and a couple of other guys. So what do you guys think about that? Thank you.
You guys mind if I take this one?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, hit it out of the park here. Let's go, Johnny.
All right, let's take a deep breath here. First of all, Jake, thanks for calling in. So I'm kind of with him on moving Artemi Panarin if they're not, a top 2, top 3 team in the Metropolitan Division to, change the course of the direction of this franchise. But I have to put myself in Chris Drury's mind, in the owner's mind. And if you are sitting in a top 2, top 3, even a wild card spot right now, this organization has no intention on missing the playoffs. And if they can get in the playoffs and Panarin's playing well, and you have Igor Shesterkin playing well, and the team is defending as well as they have been, I think, being them, they'd be convinced to say, we can go up against anybody if we're defending the way we have. And if pucks start going in the net, we have the best goalie in the league behind us. Who knows what could happen? The Florida Panthers are missing Barkov, Kachuk's been out, blah, 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 all that stuff too, yada, yada, yada. But I have to imagine that Drury and Dolan have no intention on selling him if this team is competitive. And I don't think they should, because, they have a job to do. And that job is to put a winning product out there. And if they are winning with Panarin, yeah, it makes that decision much harder. But that's my thought.
I just want to
go ahead,
Arthur.
Rupper.
Yeah, no. So I just was we did it twice. So what the one thing I just want to jump on what Johnny says too is, like, when we're talking, the Rangers, if they're in a position, you just said the same thing. Hey, if they're in a position to make the playoffs, they're not trading him.
No.
They will go on a playoff run and they'll deal with it later. I think they believe that they are the New York Rangers and they'll have chance even with Artemi Panarin in free agency or some other options depending on whatever that is. I don't now if they're not a playoff team or things get bad again, 100%. Like, you got to entertain that, or at least make a decision. It's either a contract or trade him. But you're still talking about probably outside Toronto, the biggest playoff gate that you're going to get. Like, that's to make the playoffs. It matters for every team. But I mean, you're talking some significant dollar differences between a gate for the New York Rangers and a gate for New Jersey Devils. Like, it's massive difference between the two. So I think they'll do everything they can to make sure they're in the playoffs.
And there's the other factor, since these conversations do bump up against reality, he has a full no move. And I understand Chris Drury has worked his way around some of those in previous years. But from everything I know about Artemi Panarin, he's not going anywhere. Unless you can tell him he's going to Florida, I don't think he'd say yes to Carolina. I don't know that he'd say yes to anybody out west. Certainly don't think he'd say yes to anybody in Canada. This is a guy who spurned the Islanders, who offered him more money to sign with the Rangers 7 years ago. I think he wants to be here. And if he can get his cookies and the team is good, I think he still wants to be here. So I think if you trade him, you're punting on this season. And obviously it'll be might be a little bit more determinative when you get closer to the deadline, but you're punting on a few other seasons too. There's not going to be a lot of free agents out there. You don't know where he wants to go. There's talk of he might want to go back to Chicago. Like I said, I think it's Florida or New York for this guy. He's older in his career. There's certain places he wants to be. And I think you can work with that.
Far.
If you want to, no, he's not. He had his chance to go suburban with the Islanders. He said, no, thanks. So I think you can work with that. You go into the offseason and you say, look, there's no other free agents out there. You're getting offers from whoever has the cap space. We can offer you whatever it is, 3 times 9, 3 times 9.5 to stay and be part of this. We're still going to be good. We still have your buddy in net. Things can change, I think, over the course of a season. He's saying no to a certain contract now. He may not say no in May or June. So I think if you make sure that you trade him and you get your future assets, you're setting a certain timeline that doesn't line up with the rest of this roster either, with the rest of this core. You've got, like we were saying, almost everybody outside of Adam Fox is on the other side of 30.
Yep.
So that matters around here. So what are you planning for by punting on this guy? It just there's a lot of reasons to do it. I get that if they're out of it, but to me, reality says this is not a team that's going to suddenly reset themselves and look to make whatever deal they can make to get rid of him.
Such a good question. I forgot who asked it, but I want to give credit to whoever left that voicemail. That was like 5 minutes of conversation around one question. I think we have 2 left. Vic,
Thank you,
let's queue up the
whoever.
next one.
Sorry.
Yeah, maybe was it Jake? Okay, this is from Daddy, in parentheses, not producer Vic. So let's hear what Daddy has to say.
A lot of the beginning to this season for the New York Rangers is reminding me of the beginning of the 2013-14 season when they went 9-8 to start and had that weird West Coast swing. And then this year, I think we've gone 8-7-2 to start, very similarly. New coaches in both scenarios. Would you speak on that and some of the similarities that you guys have seen between the two squads on the two situations? Obviously, we're not expecting a Stanley Cup appearance, but hey, why not?
Arthur, you probably remember, honestly, you might remember better than me.
That's the thing that comes to my mind is that they did end that in the Stanley Cup Finals and probably should have had a better fate than they got in that series with the Kings. But yeah, and it, I think it does take a little bit of time to get adjusted to a new coach when you've got a majority of guys back. I think that can't be discounted. I don't know that. I think I'll agree with Daddy that I don't think that these guys are a Stanley Cup contender from what I've seen, but they are better than what their results have shown. And outside of Jersey, outside of Carolina, outside of maybe Montreal, have we seen anybody else in the East that's looked really good? Everybody is really bunched up, and there's a lot of parity / mediocrity so far. So if you get on a roll and win 5 or 6 in a row, you can be part of those top 3 or 4 teams. They may not necessarily belong there, but they don't belong where they are right now. I think they're better than that. And it's okay to say that there's an adjustment period, even when it's a coach who's as established as Mike Sullivan. And for my mind, I think they've adjusted pretty well right off the hop. This first month, no results, but they're doing the right things. So I think it's going to come.
Hearing you say Daddy has been worth this entire idea for a show.
That's what they usually say to me here in this
Never
house,
thought I'd hear the day.
Usually.
Rupper, I know you had your hand up. You want to go next here?
I just wanted, while you're saying that, I don't remember the 13-40. I was still playing. I was in Minnesota, so I don't really recall what exactly was probably going on with the Rangers. But for how record-setting in some ways this poor start has been for the Rangers at home, like this is the part that is nuts to me. Is it doesn't feel like it could get any worse, but dude, they have the same amount of points as the Flyers for the last spot in the playoffs. You know what I mean? They played 2 more games. They got games in hand. I get it. Like they played more games, but like they have not buried themselves at all. Like their road records certainly helped them in a lot of ways. But like that's what I find in this Eastern Conference. We've had such great storylines with some teams, and then some teams that have really stunk and haven't looked like themselves. Doesn't matter. It's kind of still a fresh start right now. So these guys are fine. I think they're going to be fine.
The one thing that's so crazy to me that I'll like never get over is the fact that a team that made the Stanley Cup final, and I might need you guys to fact check if I'm wrong here. The leading scorer that year was Matt Zuccarello, and he had 57 points. Like in what world is your team leading scorer having 57 points and you get to the Cup final? Like that just speaks to Henrik Lundqvist, right? Like that's all Hank. I mean, the power play stunk. They couldn't score. And you had the best goalie in the league that carried you there. But like, Richards had a decent year. Rick Nash had a decent year. Like if that ever happened, that would never in a million years happen today where a team has a leading score of under 60 points and they make the Cup final. I would bet on that never happening again.
I would argue
59 points.
The worst team in the league this year will not have somebody their leading scorer. You know what I mean? It's not going to be that. So the fact
Bedard had 60 his first 2 seasons.
That Torts DNA was baked in for Vigneault that first year, and they, you think about the playoff run that they had, the emotional for Marty St. Louis when his mom passed right around Mother's Day, and the deciding game against Canadiens was a 1-0 game. with Dominic Moore, that prolific scorer, Dominic Moore scoring the only goal.
Yeah.
It was a different era in hockey, to be perfectly honest, and they embodied it. They were just, they could grind it out with anybody, but they had some guys that could produce when they needed to. And yeah, it was a different style team. And then you think about that final series with all the overtimes and blown leads for them. It was wild. It's just a crazy run that was on. And for me personally, I think that last finals game was like my 110th game that I covered that year. I was pretty cooked, ready for that red eye to get back here.
And Vic corrected me. It was 59 points.
See, well, that's
yeah. But Rick Nash had 39 points that year in 65 games. That's crazy.
That is
crazy.
Nuts. That is crazy.
All right, I think this is our last question. Again, thank you everyone who submitted. This is going to be my favorite part of the show. I don't know how you guys are feeling about it, but
I love it. It's great.
Yeah, I already love that we had someone said who loved the show already. They hadn't heard it yet. So last one is from Gabe. Let's hear it.
Hi, everyone. First and foremost, best of luck on the podcast. Really looking forward to listening to it on a weekly basis. I wanted to ask about former New York Ranger K'Andre Miller, who obviously signed his 7-year contract with the Carolina Hurricanes. And it's notable that Rod Brind'Amour deploys a man-to-man coverage that was similar to how Peter Laviolette deployed his defense. So I was curious why the Carolina Hurricanes felt confident in committing that much time to K'Andre Miller if 2 of the worst seasons in his career was under Peter Laviolette's defensive coverage, the man-to-man system. And if it was more mental, then, he has the physical capabilities for sure, the reach, the skating, the size. But I'm curious how you guys think that in the end it will play out. He's obviously had a strong start to his career when he's been healthy in the lineup. But I'm wondering why and how the Carolina Hurricanes and Rod Brind'Amour felt so confident to give him a 7-year contract, given his struggles in a similar man-to-man coverage system that Peter Laviolette deployed.
I like that question.
I can take this
Johnny,
one if you guys want. Yeah, I can take this one. First initial thought, Rangers forwards are not nearly as fast as Carolina's. I think the Hurricanes are a much more connected group of 5 the way they play, staying above the puck, backtracking, all that kind of stuff that goes into being a successful hockey team. Granted, again, too, K'Andre spent a lot of his time partnered with Jacob Trouba, not the fastest skater. And there were a lot of times where Trouba got caught pinching. K'Andre has let that to dry, defending a 2-on-1, 3-on-1, 3-on-2, so be it. And the Rangers, not only K'Andre's fault, there's 4 other guys out there. They struggled in their own zone for a couple of years, where Carolina has been known to be a very strong defensively sound group. So when you take, hockey is a sport where one player doesn't make that much of, for the most part, one player doesn't make that much of a difference in a positive way or in a negative way. Like every coach says 3 mistakes lead to a goal. So if K'Andre makes a mistake, or if someone else makes a mistake, K'Andre has to cover up for it, or vice versa. If K'Andre makes a mistake, someone else has to cover up for it. And Carolina, I think, does one of the best jobs at doing that. That's my initial thought. I maybe you guys can go deeper on it, but I think they've established such a high standard there that it's almost hard to fail stepping into Carolina.
I would say one thing that really set him back, and I think we can also talk about this with Alexis Lafrenière. K'Andre Miller came up as a very raw prospect, not a lot of minutes played even throughout his amateur career as a defenseman. He had 3 coaches in his first 5 years at the NHL level. Like that can't help you develop, and it's no knock on David Quinn, no knock on Gerard Gallant, no knock on Lavi. It's just, you're hearing different verbiage, you're hearing different stuff, and you're not as, he just wasn't as comfortable, I think, being a defenseman. When, he converted to D when he was 16 or 17. It's just not a lot of history there to lean on. And I think when you see his skill set in new, fresh eyes come in and see what he's got, the package that he brings, you want to see him do everything. You think he can do everything because he can turn a puck over at the blue line, the opposing blue line, and be back and beat the guy back on a breakaway. Like he can make these kind of hero plays, but I don't think he just had the foundation. He just didn't have the consistency. And if you're talking about stylistic, structural consistency, who better than Rod Brind'Amour, and what better situation than Carolina to grow and learn? You know this guy's going to be there. You know the style they play. It's very predictable. It's very repeatable. They find guys that they feel like can fit into that system, as opposed to finding a guy who they want to build a system around. I think we have to start talking about the Rangers in development with all of these changes that have happened, as all of these young guys were supposed to grow into permanent roles here, and why it didn't work out. And I think that, for me, is the one that jumps out now, where you're looking at, for Laf, this is his 4th coach, and he's not even fucking 25 years old. Like, it's crazy to expect him to be a certain established player, hearing all these different things from different guys.
That's your point.
I agree with that. And those first few years not even being used the way you've always been used in hockey. For Laf's
Fourth line.
for Lafreniere's situation. The only thing I want to add on K'Andre is Carolina spoke about it and said that they love his closeout ability. He's got that long reach, skating ability, which is awesome. But the biggest thing, I'm not a big man-on-man guy. I don't love man-on-man being played. I think man-on-man, I won't get into that. We can talk about that another time. I'm not a big fan of it, but I will say this. In order to have it and do it successfully, you don't spend long durations in your own zone. It's Carolina's best attribute. They're very sound defensively, is that they don't really defend that much.
Yeah. Best ice tilt.
So much. The ice tilt is in their favor every single period, every single game of all season long. Like, that's what they are. So, we see the shot volume and all those things that a lot of people could say, hey, I don't believe in that style, this and that, but they're playing at the other end of the ice. So I think that's why they felt like this was a good fit with K'Andre. He skates beautifully. We love that. He's got a long reach. We love that. We don't know how high the ceiling is, but guess what? We don't defend that much. But when we do, we go and we go and we go. And that's why I think they thought that was a good fit for them.
Yeah, another really good question. Thank you, Gabe. That's all the questions we have this week. And honestly, guys, we've just buzzed through, I think, like an hour and almost 45 minutes here for episode 1. And that went by. That snapped my finger.
First episode.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, we did. But I think all we have left to do is one order of business before we wrap up today's show. Again, we're sorry that it's coming out to you a little bit late on Tuesday night. The plan is to have the shows out early evening Tuesdays and by Friday afternoon. That's like the schedule we've kind of set in place here. So we'll try to do our best to stay consistent to that. But just a reminder that this show is brought to you by Novig. This, again, is America's #1 sports prediction market. You can play against real people, not the house, but with better odds and no commission. You keep 100% of your winnings. So sign up today and use code DAILYFACEOFF in all caps, DAILY. FACEOFF to get $50 in Novig coins when you spend $5 on your first purchase, and you must be 21 or older. No purchase necessary. That's going to wrap it up for episode 1 of the Tri-State Hockey Podcast with Arthur Staple, Mike Rupp, and myself, Jonny Lazarus. It's been a lot of fun so far. Can't wait for Friday's episode, and I know there's a couple games that we got to keep our eye on this week. But thank you to everyone who listened. Thank you to everyone who called in, and we will talk to you guys on Friday. Hope you enjoyed that video, and if you want to see some more Tri-State hockey content, don't forget to leave a like and comment on the video below, and also subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel.